All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode 20 of the Soup Podcast. I have the host of the Reds live show, Annie Sabo. Thank you for coming on. It's an honor to get to talk to you.
Aw.
Um, so how have you enjoyed the Red season so far this year?
First of all, thanks so much for having me. It's been great. Unfortunately, when I left for maternity leave, I think one of my last series was the series when the Reds were in Pittsburgh on the road and they got
Hmm.
swept by the Pirates. And so things were, when I left, dull and dreary. And
Yeah.
fortunately for Cincinnati, they've really made a comeback and turned things around in my absence. So hopefully that doesn't mean I'm bad luck.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to return back to work next week, funny enough, at PNC Park against the Pirates yet again. And I'll be with the Reds all of August and a lot of September as well. But I mean, they've been entertaining. My gosh, it
Yeah.
seems like every single game they're in it. They don't call them the Rally Reds for nothing. It's extremely exciting to watch. It's really kept me entertained throughout my absence here in Florida, watching the games every single night. And I know not a lot of whole moves were made, or not a lot of moves were made during the trade deadline.
Hmm.
And I think that really says a lot about this team. They believe in all the players they currently have. And I do too. And excited to see how this team performs the second half of the season. And hopefully that involves a playoff push.
Right. Yeah. They've been a very energetic team to watch this year, and it seems like almost after every game, if you go and read the comments on their posts, it's people are like, I can't deal with these heart attack games every single game. It's too long of a season
Definitely
for that.
my blood pressure has definitely probably elevated
Yeah.
more so than not watching these games. But I mean, you got to hand it to this team. Bunch of young guys, not a lot of quote unquote superstars on this ball club, but
Yeah.
they're playing like superstars. Just really speaks to the chemistry on this team and the heart and hustle of this team. And it's been, oh my gosh, love
Oh
it.
yeah. And you got a lot of superstars in the making between Cruz and McLean, Steer, all those guys.
I like
So
that. Not superstars right now, but superstars in the making.
yeah.
Maybe as soon as next season. Who knows?
Oh, I agree. I think it's gonna be
Mhm.
much sooner than later.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, when did you first know that you wanted to do sports broadcasting?
Gosh, everyone always asks me this, and it's so funny because I never really, growing up, knew what I wanted to do in life. I just knew that I really loved sports. I was very athletic growing up. I played
Hmm.
soccer for forever, and then after too many concussions, quit soccer to play tennis. And I think I was about 12 years old, 11 or 12. I can't remember the exact age, but we were sitting in our living room. I grew up in Cincinnati, and we were watching an NFL game, probably Bengals. I cannot remember who they were playing. And I remember seeing Aaron Andrews, of course,
Hmm.
reporting on the NFL game. And my dad just casually said, Annie, why don't you try to do that as a
Yeah.
career? I never really thought about that. And I was like, okay, let's give that a shot. I'm a very decisive person. So once I decide on something, it's pretty easy.
Hmm.
And ever since that moment, I was like, yeah, I think I'd be good at that. Had no
Yeah.
experience or never really dreamt of being a sports reporter, but ever since that moment, I felt like sports was for me. I mean, everything that I do for fun involves sports. I love going to games. I love watching sports. My husband is very lucky. Just kidding. So it's been my entire life has been obviously involved in sports, and so once I had an opportunity to pursue it for a career, it was really easy, and I love it. Still doing it years later.
Yeah. That's kind of funny because I'm a communications major right now, and that's kind of like my long-term deal or long-term plan is I want to get into play-by-play broadcasting.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of the same thing you were talking about. I was sitting there with my dad. We were watching, I think it was an XFL game,
Hmm.
and we were just kind of talking about football and stuff. He's like, "Have you ever thought about doing sports broadcasting?" Because originally I was wanting to do like be an engineer or something like that. And I was like, no, I'd never really thought about it. It's just kind of like always loved sports and stuff, but it's just kind of one of those jobs where it's like seems too good to be true. Like you just get to
It's
sit
not
there and
really a
talk about
job.
it. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
Yeah, I don't really call it a job. I mean, I love my field of work, but I love it so much. It's not really a job. It's just I get to do this every day, and I'm so blessed and lucky to have my current job. But yeah, it's not a job. It's just a dream come true every day.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So you graduated with a degree in communications from Michigan.
Mhm.
Uh, can you explain how you kind of found your way into that field? Because I saw you did you do some like sideline reporting and stuff like that up at Michigan?
I did. So yeah, so every Big Ten school we had when I was in school. So what was that? 2011 to 15. Every Big Ten school had a Big Ten student U program. So what that meant is that we applied, we interviewed, and then we got these positions to learn how to broadcast games. And by that, I mean, sometimes I was doing graphics behind the scenes, sometimes I was a camera person, sometimes I did sideline, and other times, oh my gosh, I can't even think of another position. But it was kind of learning the ins and outs of a live broadcast from in front of the camera or behind the camera and what all goes into it and how long it takes to prepare for these sporting events, because a lot of people don't know if your game starts at 7, you show up at noon or 1 o'clock, depending on your role.
Oh yeah.
So I did a little bit of that at Michigan. And then my senior year of school, I was hired by the athletic website, mgoblue.com, to work with the football team and basketball team as the first student reporter for that. And it was awesome. I got to learn how to produce my own features, learn how to actually do interviews.
Hmm.
And I remember my boss, Patrick McLaughlin at Michigan, really taught me how, like I said, how to write features, how to really conduct interviews in a way that I was respected. And he was not at all easy on me. He would tell me if I did something wrong that I did it wrong and I wasn't doing it good enough and had to do it again. But I'm so thankful for him, because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been prepared to take my first TV job in Corpus Christi, Texas. So yeah, I did a little bit of everything in college, worked like a million TV jobs. Um, but the one for mgoblue.com was the one that taught me the most, because I had the best boss in the world. But I learned how to do, like I said, through Big Ten Student U, sideline reporting, as well as behind the scenes stuff, graphics, scoreboard, camera work. I did it all. And it was just
Wow.
it was so much fun. And that was my friend group in college. And it was just an incredible friend group.
Hmm. So do you know, do they still have those programs for the Big Ten schools now?
I believe they do. I don't know anyone going to school right now who I could ask, but I believe the Big Ten Network does have that. Like I said, every Big Ten school has this program. You had to apply, interview, blah, blah, blah. And we were paid for it too.
Hmm.
So it was a great job. So you'd go to your classes, and then right out of your classes, you'd go to work and be there for 8 hours and broadcast. It's not like we did big broadcasts of the football games. We did, women's volleyball, baseball, softball, smaller sports, not basketball and not football, but it was such a great learning experience.
Yeah, that's really cool. You don't see that, I guess, as much in like the other schools. Obviously, NKU, it's Horizon League. It's not like Big Ten or anything like that. But those programs, it sounds like they were super beneficial for you. And I bet
Oh yeah.
for the students now, it's like with the, technology expanding so much more, there's so
You
much more to
learn,
learn and stuff.
yeah, you learn from doing that how much goes into every broadcast, not only for someone who wants to be on air, but all of the people that are involved behind the scenes. And for those who don't know anything about broadcasting, if I'm on the air, it takes about 50 people behind the scenes to put us on the air. And
Hmm.
so we're very thankful to all those people who work very hard and who are at work way earlier than we are.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So you were talking about your work in Corpus Christi, working on that news channel down there. What
Yeah.
was it kind of like going from, because you said you grew up in Cincinnati, then you go to
Yeah.
Michigan, and then you go down to Texas. What was that all kind of like, and getting that first big job out of college working at a news channel?
Yeah, well, I was really fortunate. I remember sitting in class at Michigan, just sending out a resume to every single station that was a small market station that was warm, because after Michigan, I loved Michigan, but I never wanted to do cold weather again. So I remember sending out my resume and going on an interview to Corpus Christi, and it worked out because that was a beach town. It was hot all the time. It was
Hmm.
great. But that being said, it was a very small town. We didn't have a Panera in that town. And
Oh,
so going from Cincinnati, which is a pretty big city, to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where you pretty much have everything, then living by yourself and moving to the middle of nowhere in Texas, South Texas, was kind of eye-opening a little bit. But hey, it was my first job out of college. I was doing what I really wanted to do, and I didn't have to freeze to death. I got to wear, dresses and shorts and a t-shirt every single day and go to the pool for, on my off days. So that was wonderful. But it was definitely a culture shock being down there a little bit just because it was something that I never really experienced before. And, as a 22-year-old kid doing your first real job, being live on TV and doing live shots, you're so nervous every single day. And I remember I got to work on Friday night football shows, and
Oh, okay.
Friday night football in Texas is a different deal. I grew up in Cincinnati. Football was a really big deal, but it's nowhere compared to how Texas does it. And so that was, oh my gosh, that was so cool for me. And being able to do that and having that on my reel and just experiencing that was awesome. But it was, working for not a lot of money and working
Hmm.
for 12 to 14 hours a day. And I did that for 2 years, and I'm very grateful for that job. But once I got my second job, I was very ready to leave. But I mean, no, I look back on Corpus Christi and I have the fondest memories. I still keep in contact with a lot of people I met at that station who are on to bigger and better things as well. But
Yeah.
definitely loved the weather. Work schedule was a little bit tough sometimes because I also worked on the morning show there
Oh,
and did high school football at night. So a little bit tired, but hey, nothing a 22-year-old through what
right.
24-year-old can't handle.
Yeah. So yeah, you were talking about you did like Friday football down there. Did you ever like travel to the games?
Yeah, I mean, like I would do all my work at the station, then we do live shots, throughout the Corpus Christi area. I think the farthest that I ever drove was, I don't know, like an hour away, because that's small market TV. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I would get all the material, learn as much as I could about the certain high school football team of the week, and I'd drive there, and we would have my camera guy with me, and we'd, shoot highlights. Then at halftime, we'd put together a package for highlights, and then I would do a live shot at the end of the game, and it was a quick turnaround, and it was awesome, and I loved it, and I had so much fun, but it was stressful for it being my first TV job and learning how to do everything live and
Yeah.
on the fly. Um, but yeah, it was an experience that I'm so grateful for and wouldn't change it for the world. And, every once in a while, I'm like, I could go back to Corpus Christi. I miss it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I guess, Corpus Christi, Texas and then Florida. So it's not like a huge weather shift or anything like that you'd have to worry about, like from Michigan to Texas. So that's good at
No,
least.
I like it really hot, so it worked out for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure growing up Ohio, Michigan, this first 20 years of life, it's very, very cold when it's
Yes,
wintertime.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were a reporter for the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. What
Mhm.
was that kind of like in going from that shift to such like a big stage like the Olympics? When did it really set in for you?
I don't even know. Maybe like after the fact when I got back. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, going to Tampa after Corpus Christi was another, answer to my prayers because my family lives in Sarasota. So Tampa was a 45-minute drive.
Hmm.
Being in Corpus Christi, didn't get to see my family a whole lot. And in this industry, you work every single holiday. So I didn't get to come home for holidays for like 2 years. Then I went to Tampa and had a great time, covered so many different major league, big league teams there. And then once the Olympic stuff kind of came along, it was very overwhelming at first because man, there was a lot of information that we had to know prior to leaving for Pyeongchang. And it was learning all of my Olympic stuff on top of all of the work that I already had to do at the news station. So it was kind of like every month we had a different meeting in preparation for this. And once I got there, mind you, I had never been overseas before. So this was my first international trip. And so I was a little bit nervous. So I fly over to South Korea, and you're working 17-hour days and just kind of learning. In the morning, we started with live shots for, I don't know, 4 hours. And then I'd get my camera, go out, find a story, and shoot it for the day and turn it around for the following day, which was kind of backwards because South Korea was 12 hours ahead. So I knew the outcomes of different events,
Yeah.
but I had to pretend like I didn't know the outcomes of certain events for people back here in the States. So it was just wild getting a grasp of that. But I think maybe the moment it set in that it was just so cool. I remember, I mean, granted, we worked like I sincerely am not exaggerating when I say it was 17, 18-hour days. Um, but I remember we had a dinner break and I got to sneak off to watch the US women's hockey team play Canada for a gold medal.
Oh,
And the
that's
United
cool.
States won. and I got to attend as a fan, and it was so cool. And it was a memory that I'll have for the rest of my life. It was just the cheers for United States and for Canada, and the pride, of being American in that arena was
Hmm.
unbelievable. And I remember waiting underneath the arena after the game and doing all the interviews with the athletes. And that was just like one of the coolest moments ever. Like I just
Yeah.
witnessed the US women beat Canada for a gold medal. And then I got to do interviews after. Like it was unbelievable. And I think, and that wasn't, I wasn't even on the air, but it was just like, wow, I
Hmm.
witnessed something pretty cool. And that was the moment it probably set in. But then when I got home, jet lag set in, and I was like
Yeah.
comatose for the next 2 weeks. But no, it was an experience. I would definitely do it again. Maybe summer Olympics, because I'm not a winter weather gal.
Yeah.
It was really cold every day, but I mean, it was so cool, and I would do it again in a heartbeat if I was asked to go again.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I feel like that'd be like the pinnacle of sports experiences,
Oh my
being able to
gosh, it
go.
was. Yeah, I would totally do it again.
Yeah, that's neat. So, of all those athletes that you interviewed, what would you say was like probably the best interaction with an athlete?
Let me think back. We interviewed Shaun White for a couple different
Oh,
things.
okay.
And that was real. I mean, Shaun White. So Shaun White, I remember. Lindsey Vonn was also huge back then. I mean, she still is huge. So those are probably the two that stuck out to me. And then it was kind of different because I represented Florida. I kind of took on the whole southern region. So I interviewed athletes more so from the South, so Georgia, South Carolina, etc. So that was a lot of speed skaters, a lot of the women's hockey team, because they trained in Tampa, Florida, leading up to
Oh,
the
okay.
Olympics. So that was kind of my area of expertise. But I mean, yeah, I mean, how can you not say that Shaun White and Lindsey Vonn weren't the most
Right.
memorable that
Yeah.
time?
My sister, she's a couple years older than me. She loved Shaun White growing up. And so it's like every interview that she could see of Shaun White was she'd sit there and her eyes were glued to the screen the entire thing. He's just
I
like,
mean, he's still the coolest.
yeah, he's got such like a likable personality. He's a fun
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
He's
That's
a lot smaller than I thought in person, but like the coolest, nicest guy ever.
oh yeah,
You can
absolutely.
tell your sister that, and she can be happy.
Yeah, her personification of him will just glow even more than it already was. So you also lifted the NFL around the league to a number one ranking across the league. What did that mean to you to, do that, do so much of that work by yourself and carry it there?
Yeah, I was really proud of it, for the time being. I don't know if it means so much, years from now, but that was an opportunity that the Bucks had hired me for, and it was something that I was so excited about. Again, in addition to everything that I was already doing,
Yeah.
but something that I was happy to take on. And as I tell everyone in this business, never say no. So there's not many things that I said no to during the course of my career. But yeah, it was kind of, being welcomed into the Bucks broadcast crew and doing highlights as much as possible throughout the course of the game, and doing it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So when the producer, called upon me to have something ready, I was ready. And I think that really taught me to learn again how to do things quickly in this business, because live TV, sometimes you have an hour to prepare and sometimes you have 2 minutes to prepare. So it kind of taught me how to be ready in 2 minutes opposed to having an hour to, get my highlights together. And I mean, yeah, it meant a lot to me. It was something I was really proud of within that year. And I would have kept doing it, but Minnesota came calling. So I left Tampa to go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And yeah, Minnesota was great, but meant a lot to me. And I loved working with the Buccaneers, great organization. And again, would do it again, but hey, I had to go
Moving
somewhere
on.
else to advance
Right.
the old career.
Yeah. So that's actually a perfect transition. I was gonna ask, you went to Minnesota to do the pre and post game shows for the Twins and Timberwolves. Um, you were you up there during COVID?
Yeah, well, kind of. It was weird. I was up there leading up to COVID, and then I remember I took one game off, and the Timberwolves had like 2 days off or something, and I took one game off because I was going to fly back to Tampa for my husband's birthday at the time.
Hmm.
And so, I packed a carry-on suitcase, brought my dog, was planning on being, home for 3 days. And on like the second or third day, I can't even remember, But that's when COVID started, the whole Rudy Gobert shutting down the
Yeah. Yeah.
NBA. And then I called my bosses and I said, "Hey, do I need to come back? I don't like what's going on here?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, not really sure. So you can just stay in Florida for the time being and we'll let you know." Well, long story short, I was in Florida for 4 or 5 months with my carry-on suitcase. So I mean, I did laundry like every single day
Yeah.
for those 4 months. So I was planning on being there, but fortunately for me, I ended up coming down to Florida for my husband's birthday and ended up staying here with my family and husband for 4 months, but eventually went back. But yeah, COVID was a dark time for all the sportscasters. I don't like
Mhm.
sitting around and doing nothing and being shut in our houses for that long a time and, not working and not doing anything. That was tough.
Yeah. It's tough too because me and my dad talk about it a lot now, just joking around about it and stuff, about how there was nothing on. It was
No.
it was like you'd turn on ESPN and you have like just people jumping off of these high dives into these like in-ground pools, and there's just judges who look like, their neighbors giving them scores, and it's like, what is this? Is such like an odd time. You will never tune into ESPN and just have
Yeah.
these random sports on like this.
And remember, like Tiger King was the only thing that people were
Yeah.
watching. So we watched that, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I remember when the stores opened, we went to Target and picked up, I think, every card game and board game we could possibly find because there was nothing else to do. It was
Yeah.
awful.
And the Last Dance came out at that time too.
That's
And
right.
I think I watched that like 15 times just because between the fact of I liked it a lot and I was
Yeah.
just like, there's nothing else I can watch right now.
The countdown to that show every single week was really on because we had
Yeah.
nothing else to watch.
It was such an odd time. And
Oh,
cornhole, there was so much cornhole on all the time where it was
yeah.
like getting to the point of like, man, it's kind of interesting. And I was like, what am I doing, man? I'm just
Yeah.
watching cornhole all the
Hopefully that
time.
never happens again. But yeah, we lived
Yeah.
through some dark times.
Yeah. It was such an odd time.
Yeah.
So then you went to the Big Ten Network and did some of the college football shows there. What was your favorite school, obviously aside from your alma mater,
Yeah.
Michigan, to tailgate at? And what was the atmosphere shift like from professional football to college football?
Well, I'm a college football fan more so than an NFL. I mean, I love the NFL, but like I'm a diehard college football fan.
Hmm.
Um, my favorite school outside of Michigan was hands down Iowa. If anyone
Really?
listening to this podcast went to Iowa, it was amazing. Yes. And
Wow.
I had never really desired to tailgate or go to a game at Iowa, but it was awesome. The fans were awesome there. A lot of bars, restaurants, the campus in general was, I mean, huge. There were so many things to do. Unfortunately, after the shows were done,
Mm.
I went back to the airport, so I never really got to tailgate. But if I wanted to go back and tailgate at a school, I would go back to Iowa in a heartbeat. Trying to think of other schools that I really liked. Iowa was cool. Um, Purdue was kind of cool. I liked their campus. It was a little bit different, but I liked Purdue. I just remember it was pouring down rain when we went.
Uh,
So kind of, put a damper on the experience.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean Iowa hands down was my favorite. And the transition from NFL football to college football, I mean, I don't know, it's just so different. I don't really think it was more of a transition. It was just learning. In Tampa, it was learning one football team and
Mhm.
learning their opponent. So knowing everything you could possibly know about the Buccaneers, and if they're playing the Panthers that week, knowing everything about the Panthers. So you have to know everything about two teams.
Mhm.
However, covering the Big Ten, it was like I have to know everything about every single team across the Big Ten
Yeah.
and how they finished last week. So I think that was definitely a challenge for me because it was like, okay, after Saturday is done, Sunday, I probably got home super late Saturday night, but on Sunday, I have to start preparation for the next week because I have to learn every single thing about every single Big Ten school and have to be prepared for that,
Yeah.
opposed to, maybe taking Sunday off. If I have 4 days, I can learn in 4 days everything I need to know about the Bucks and their practice week and the Saints if they're playing the Saints that week. So it wasn't like learning a whole new ball game or a whole new sport. It was more so learning a lot more information in a same amount or a shorter period of time, which was at times a tough transition.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, it's such like a completely different game because it's, the NFL, I don't want to say it's more like structured, but
Mhm.
it's just it's professional sports. It's going to be so much more organized
Yeah.
than college sports, and then college sports, it's just so many more teams that you got to focus
Yeah,
on, like
and
you're
to that
saying.
point, it's like, when you deal with big league teams, you're getting media guides, you're getting emails with all this information. Whereas in college, you're not necessarily getting all that stuff. I remember at Big Ten, we had a researcher who was wonderful, who sent us, packets of information
Hmm.
based or, about every single team, but it's not like the teams were sending us all this information. So, yeah, the NFL is a bit more, yeah, structured because because it's a pro league, but college is kind of, yeah, a free for all in terms of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of shocked to hear Iowa. So did you end up going to Northwestern for a game at some point?
Yes, we did. And I can't even remember.
Yeah.
I did. I don't know, for some reason, like all these schools blur in my mind. I just remember having a great time every single time or every single school we went to. We went to Northwestern, or maybe that was a game. Yes, that was the game. I'm not remembering it because Northwestern that year played at Wrigley Field. So our show was from Wrigley Field, and it was so cool.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. That makes me think of when the Raiders were playing in, I think they were playing in the A's
Hmm.
stadium for a while. That was like 5, 6 years ago. But yeah, it's so weird how they can just be like, all right, well, we're gonna put a football game out on this baseball
Yeah.
field.
I mean, it
And
definitely was
just
like it was weird because the field kind of ran from the third baseline into right field.
mhm.
But yeah, I wasn't remembering it because I was like, I don't remember going to Northwestern, but that was the game that was awesome. That was at Wrigley Field.
That is cool. That's a neat experience.
Yeah.
So when you returned back to Cincinnati to be the Reds live host for Bally Sports, was it kind of like an emotional experience getting to come back home to your hometown team and the team that your father represented for years and is still like a legend now?
Yeah. I am like not the most emotional person. Maybe I am now because I've had a kid, but I am not very emotional. But I just remember like trying to find a job in Tampa and this opportunity came along and I had never really thought of returning to Cincinnati. I don't know why. The thought never crossed my mind in, I guess,
The cold
five,
weather.
6 years. Yeah, I never really thought about it. But then, the opportunity kind of presented itself and getting to go back to Cincinnati, the place I grew up, and to cover the team my dad played for and the team that I grew up rooting for really was just an unreal experience. I didn't, realize how much it would mean to me prior to taking the job, but now that I'm here in season 2, I mean, it means the world to me. I've said, in every interview that I do that I want to stay here for a really long time, and I love working for the Reds and in Bally Sports, and yeah, I mean, it definitely makes me a little bit more emotional now just because I've had such a great time and great experience, and the fans in Cincinnati have been so kind to me, and I really do appreciate all the comments that I get on social media or even when someone comes up to me in person at Great American Ballpark means a lot. So, thank you fans.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I think I have the greatest job in the world and hope to do it forever. And yeah, I mean, not an emotional person, but it's a very cool moment, and I feel like I'm supposed to be with this team and supposed to have this job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. It's merges together perfectly.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for someone like, me who's kind of looking for a job in front of the camera in sports or uh, just anyone who's kind of looking for like a sports broadcasting job? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I always like give the same advice, but I feel like my advice has to change a little bit just because this industry has shifted so much in, even so the last 3 years or so post COVID, it seems like everything has gone digital.
Hmm.
Whereas when I was graduating, it was not as much as digital as it is now. But I mean, I think the same advice applies to everyone in the sense that, as I said earlier, say yes to everything, be a hard worker, be kind to every single person, and be your biggest advocate. I've gotten every single job that I've had by emailing people, building relationships with people, and just sending out my reels. I mean, Do I send out my reel 10 times and maybe get one response, even at this level? Yeah, because it's a really tough and competitive industry. And it's gotten even more competitive
Yeah.
in the last couple of years because post COVID, a lot of the jobs have been reduced due to budget cuts and things of that nature. But I mean, yeah, and I think reps too. I mean, I'm trying to get better every single day. It's just a
Hmm.
matter of doing this as many times as you can, getting in front of the camera and maybe tweaking something or learning something about yourself or your style that plays well one day and doesn't play well the following day. And preparation is key too. I always come prepared. I might not have the greatest show in the world and I might stumble on my words 5 billion times, but at least I came prepared, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, some days you're not going to have the greatest speaking days. That's just how it is in this industry. However, you can come prepared and be ready for anything and be ready for a lot of things to fail as well. Live TV, a lot of things go wrong, a lot of technical issues take place. So being able to, and that only comes with time, being able to, react quickly and pivot if need be, if something goes wrong is key. But that goes back to just reps. I mean, you're not going to graduate college and be the next Reese Davis on ESPN or Bob Costas. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So this craft takes a lot of years to perfect, and I'm still trying to do that. So I would say also be kind to yourself and be patient because I feel like we live in a world where social media rules and you are constantly comparing yourself to others and where you are in your career to other people. And do I get caught up in that sometimes? Sure. However, I think that's just not the right mindset or mentality to have because I think everyone's path in this industry is so different and how I got into the business might be totally different than how you get into the business.
Hmm.
Um, and also, which I'm trying to do better, keep up your presence on social media, like post your reels, post your on-air clips that you think you did a really good job at. Keep communicating with people through the business. And you know what? If you're kind, if you're prompt, if you're respectful and keep in communication with some of these people, they might not think you're good enough now, but maybe in 5 years or so, they might remember you and how kind you were. And oh yeah, that kid sent me a reel and resume. They weren't ready then, but they've really grown in the last 5 years. Let's give them an audition or something.
Hmm.
So it's crazy. But I think what I need to learn is how to be better in the digital space. And I feel like the younger generation, maybe more so your generation, is better at that than I am. But yeah, I mean, own your craft digitally too. I was just talking to a girl the other day and she was doing a radio gig and didn't really have a lot of on-air experience. So I said, well, you're doing all this preparation for the baseball game. Can you film yourself and post it on social media? Or can you do a game preview on social media just to get like more on-camera experience? And she's been doing that. It's just like with social media now, there's so many different avenues that you can take to get better, to get reps in front of the camera, even if it's on your phone, that
Hmm.
maybe future employers might notice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really good advice. I think, I mean, there's a lot I can learn from that and kind of carry over because learning from someone as experienced as you, I think that's going to be a big help. So thank
But I
you for that
definitely think,
advice.
if going to a small town station in the middle of nowhere, I still think that's the best route because you're doing live TV. If you mess up on the air, sorry, but you got to be able to fix it on the
Yeah.
fly. I feel like
Yeah.
that was the biggest learning experience. And like I said, maybe a lot of things have changed. However, I think that's the best route. You got to be able to do things live
Hmm.
and be able to recover if things don't go according to plan. And then you kind of get better at that as the years go on.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I just got a couple minutes left, but I wanted to make save real quick. I did have a couple bites of the French onion soup. I went and got it from La Rosa's, and I've had it before on the show. I can't remember what I gave it last time, but I'm a huge onion fan, so it was good.
Me too.
I think I gave it like an 8 out of 10 last time,
Oh.
so I'd still probably go with that rating this time. It was good.
Well, I love La Rosa's. I love their pizza. Yeah, I
Mhm.
love onions on anything. Raw onions, sauteed onions, I don't care, but
Yes,
I pretty much
yeah.
eat it on everything. It's delicious. One of my best friends doesn't like onions, and I don't know what they're doing with themselves. But yeah, La Rosa's, I will have to try that. I didn't even know they had French onion soup, but when I'm back in Cincinnati next week, gonna have to give it a go.
Yeah, I didn't know either. And then the person who had it last time, they were like, "Oh, I was gonna get some from La Rosa's." I was like, "I didn't even know La Rosa's had soup."
They're
So
smart. They know French onion, hot market, and they
yeah,
wanted to jump on board.
yeah. So the last question that I was gonna ask you, one of my friends had sent this to me, and he was like, "You got to ask about this." So
Mhm.
the Reds hot video, that your dad was in, and a lot of
Yeah.
his teammates were in. How long did it take him to show you guys that, or did you guys stumble upon it yourselves?
Oh gosh, where is he? My dad's out there somewhere with my daughter. I wish I don't know where he is right now. But oh my, I think we granted when we were younger, I was the only one alive and my dad was still playing. Granted, no, my middle sister Brooke was alive, like maybe one or two. My dad retired. So I was, but it's sad I don't remember that much because I
Mhm.
was so young. Um, so all the memories that I do have are like from being in the clubhouse, like babysitting complex,
Yeah.
and things like that. I don't remember my dad playing at all. But I remember, oh gosh, maybe they showed me, they played that video a lot. My parents did for us growing up, but I don't think I actually remember it. And I don't think I thought it was funny until, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something like
Yeah.
that. Every once in a while, after a few cocktails or glasses of wine, we play it
Yeah.
and it's great. And my dad did a great job. But yeah, I mean, that video is just classic.
It
It's
is.
unbelievable. I mean,
It's
I hope one day I get to do that. But I mean, I have no vocal ability whatsoever. I mean, granted, neither did anyone in that video, but maybe one day,
right, right. Yeah, I was
maybe 10. So I'll say maybe 10. I remember it, but I feel like they maybe showed me earlier. I just couldn't remember.
yeah. Yeah, it's a good video. It's kind of something just like you were saying, always look back on and it's just like gets funnier and funnier each time.
I know they need to like, I should suggest that to the current Reds. They should like recreate it
Yeah.
after a certain amount of years and see how it turns out and then
Yeah.
compare, post on social media. And I
Oh
feel like
yeah.
that's a big hit.
Yeah, get some of the new guys back in,
Oh
put them
yeah.
in there, bring some of the other guys back in, and then you got a whole new song that you can do.
But I feel like in this generation, a lot of the players, because we've grown up with rap, would be a lot better
That's true.
singing
Yeah.
than the 90 crew. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe some of those guys still got it. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the interview. It was an honor to have you on. Yeah, thank you very much.
Of course, best of luck with school and everything, and best of luck in this career because it's tough. But I mean, yeah, if you want to do it, it'll work out.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Of course.